Good morning. My name is Angel, and this is episode 12 of Saying Goodbye, a podcast by yours truly. And last episode was a really difficult one for me. The last two have been extremely difficult. Talking about my mother and talking about what took place when, she started getting really sick, and the back and forth from Pennsylvania to New York, and just showing up for her and the tough decisions, that was, just the decisions you have to make for your loved ones, especially like if your loved ones don't have things written out and you got to fight in the moment while trying to feel what you're feeling, and it's someone you love dearly, and you have to send them off. So what I'm doing here for people that are just tuned in and just happen to stumble across this episode is I'm just talking about my life and breaking down the timeline of what I've been through and what I have gone through up to this point. And at this point, my mom just passed away, and it was 2018. It was 3 days before my birthday, and I went through all the funeral services or whatever I was going to take care of at that time, and I did what I had to do. And at this point of my life, I was going through a lot of turmoil. I was really angry at like what that meant for me, that I wasn't going to be able to ever straighten out the things that I had been through, or I wasn't going to be able to like resolve it with her. And the thing that baffles me the most is that, in 40-something years, we didn't get to resolve it. And then, now that she passes away, all of a sudden there's an urgency that I want to heal that trauma. And I think that she has something to do with it when she doesn't. That's mine. Even though she had something to do with it, but it's not hers. And there was a lot of different feelings. There was feelings of, I felt like I betrayed her. I put her on medication that took her out of here. But in all honesty, I didn't do anything. I was there for her, and I helped her in the process of her transitioning. And, I got the phone call, she passed away. I did everything in the funeral home. And, at this point in my life, I was lost. I didn't know what to do. I was brokenhearted. I was trying to deal with things the best way that I could. And to be honest, the child in me came out, and he was on full display. All the insecurities, all the lovelessness, all the lack of parents, father, mother, all that lack, all that need, all that want, it all came to the surface at that point. And at that point, 5 years ago, I was like 8 years clean. And, to be honest, I stopped going to like NA meetings, and I stopped doing things because I was clean. I already, I don't want to get high anymore. At that point, I didn't want to get high. I was just really like hurt. But the point that I'm saying that is that I wasn't working anything. I wasn't working no program. I wasn't working no steps. I didn't have a sponsor. I didn't have anything going on in my life. I was just white knuckling it. And, I was just doing everything at my own will. And that never works. When I'm not accountable, when I don't have to answer to somebody else, when I'm able to do whatever Angel wants to do, that's when the problems come. That's when trouble starts. But it's been brewing. My mom's dying. I'm back and forth to New York. I'm going through a lot of strenuous things. My daughter, I'm not, seeing my daughter or my son. And, there was a situation that took place, and I just felt like I couldn't be around my mom's ashes, because I had her cremated, and I had her ashes in the house, and I wanted to go pour out her ashes, and I wind up getting into like a big fight with my significant other, and it wind up being this thing that I was so angry at her that she wasn't there for me. And then because she wasn't there for me and she didn't show up the way that I needed her to show up, or maybe the way that I wanted her to show up, either way, it was what I wanted, what I needed, what I felt I needed. And then there's the truth. And the truth is, through going to therapy and, like doing work and working my program now and working on Angel, I found out that when this had happened, that I had this big fallout right after my mom passed away, and I winded up alone with my mother's ashes, driving to New York City. I was extremely angry at my significant other. And when you have a significant other, you know exactly what would tear them apart. And, I felt like in a lot of ways I wasn't getting the love that I needed, and the love that I wanted. And I wasn't getting any attention, and I wasn't really getting any of those things. And, I used the excuse of being angry at somebody for not showing up for me in ways that they probably could never show up. Nonetheless, I was angry at my significant other, and I did what would hurt her the most. And then the infidelity began. I started seeing another woman and looking for love in all the wrong places and doing all of this. And I did all these things while I was, basically I was sober, because I wasn't working any program. There was no recovery. It was just clean time, just time that I was abstinent from the drug. And there's no excuses. There was no drugs. There's no medication. There's no nothing. There was just me, myself, and I. My insecurities, all the things that I've been through, just all the trauma. And I felt abandoned, and then that abandonment came all back. And then, because of what I went through growing up with my mother and her just never like being there, I view women a certain way, and I viewed them like as objects for a long time, and I didn't care. And growing up in the streets, given the chaos that I had to deal with, and I had to hurt people before they hurt me, or if they got to me first, I gotta get back. And it was vengeance, and I had to get my revenge, And I don't say that to be proud. I don't say that with my chest out. I don't say that feeling some type of dignity. I say that as a human being, just as somebody that was just trying to do the best that I could with what I had at that point in time. And what I had in that point in time, I had a lot of pain. I had a lot of hurt. I had a lot of trauma, a lot of things I didn't deal with. I wasn't doing anything to get better. I was just not putting drugs in my system, but I still behaved like an addict. And I still wasn't healing from all the things that I have gone through in my life. There was nothing that I was doing that pointed to the fact that I was doing okay, or that I was doing the right thing, or that I was working on anything that hurt me, and like I wasn't processing anything. It wasn't any of that. It was, she hurt me, she wasn't there for me, and now I'm gonna do what hurts her. And on top of that, like I had to look at who my partner was, how my partner can show up, how they cannot show up, who they are as a person by themselves, as individuals, and then see if that fits what I wanted in my life. And to be honest, I wasn't healthy enough to make any of those types of choices, or have that understanding, that emotional maturity to understand all these things and to make these healthy choices in my life going into these relationships, going into this relationship in particular. Excuse me. And this is when things started to get out of hand, and when the infidelity happened, I went and told my significant other, and after that, it just became that I just didn't care. And, my relationship with my significant other was just turmoil. We left each other, obviously, like once I went and I said everything that I was doing, and I did. Like my partner left, came back. In the process, my son was conceived, and then like I'm there trying to work it out because I want to keep a family. Meanwhile, like my heart's not in it, and I already did the damage. The damage was done. Like I destroyed my own heart. I destroyed this person's heart. I did the worst that I could do to this person. And it's definitely embarrassing, but it's a learning, it's all a learning curve for me. Like I'm understanding now why I did what I did and what took place that caused that to happen. And like now it's, now it's now my baby, she's pregnant with my baby. We, like the fighting continued, infidelity. I was just like, I felt like she owed me something. I felt like she didn't pay. It's the same thing that I was thinking about my mother. And then what I did was it was a generalization. So everything that I felt towards women, everything that I felt towards my mother, all of that stemmed together. My mother breaking my heart, being the first woman to destroy me internally, and just, all the things that I held dear. I just never trusted my mother, and I put all the women in that category. Because I got to talk about myself. Yeah, I did these acts, but I got to talk about me, like how I looked at women as objects and how I view women as nothing, because eventually anyway, they were going to leave, right? And that's my abandonment thing. Like, oh, they're going to leave, it doesn't matter. Like, none of it matters because they all leave anyway. So that's the abandonment. And then all women are the same. Watching my mother do these things, promiscuous things, volatile things, like, just giving away her body, using it to get what she wants. I viewed all women that way. And I never looked at it until later in life. Like, after these things took place, and after I just destroyed somebody's heart, and I destroyed my own, and I couldn't have that dream of having a family. You know, now I go home to an empty house. It was so much up and down. Not only did I break my significant other's heart, and then now we're like back and forth. There's a child involved, and then there's other women involved. You know, and you know, this took place, and I'm not gonna sit here and say, oh well, oh, these are the reasons and it ain't my fault. No, it's my fault. Definitely. I take responsibility. I had to make choices, and I made the wrong choices. And I could sit here and say I did, and I feel a bit of shame, embarrassment. I don't feel good about what took place and what I've done. It's not a proud moment for me. It's not something that I could do and I could say, like, oh well. No, definitely not. When I gotta go and I gotta do things, and I look at this woman, this is the mother of my child. And I broke her heart the way my mother broke mine. The way my father broke mine. And I just wanted vengeance. And, I just poured from whatever I had in me, and I was just broken. And I was wounded, and I didn't do the right thing, and when I seen what my actions have actually done to this person that I claim to love and I claim to care about and I built a life with, and to watch it all come crashing down because of my infidelity. And because I expected things from her that could never be. I expected me from her. I expected her to be like me, to be there like I'm there, to show up for me the way I show up for her. And I expected all these things, and those expectations, they left a damaged person and relationship, and just things that were so unhealthy. It's the reason why, we could never be together again. I believe there's no repairing any of it. And, I try to do the best that I can right now with what I got, which is I am healing. I am working through a lot of things. There's a lot of understanding. There's a lot of growth happening. And, that's the way that things change. Things don't change because you recognize them. Things change when you recognize what you did, and then you no longer want to be that way, and you want to understand why you did these things, and you don't repeat the cycle. And you don't keep repeating the same things that you were doing, And for me, it was important to understand what happened, what triggered me, and then how I worked my way out of that. I've been to therapy, been to couples therapy, been to all of that. I've been to like 2 or 3 therapists, and right now I have my one therapist, Kate. She's amazing, and I see her regularly. And now I go to my meetings, I work my steps, I have a sponsor, I got the things that I need in my life in order to do the work, and I'm doing the work. I'm doing inventory daily about what kind of decisions I made yesterday that weren't right, and what decisions I can make that are going to be better today. And, that's the way that I live my life. I'm not some perfect person or trying to pretend like I'm something that I'm not. Because I'm not. This is life. There's no manual, there's no script, there's nothing that you could go by. But then again, like, what would life be if it was just a straight line? I don't know what that would look like for me, but my life wasn't a straight line. It was extreme lows. And then, just trying to get to a normal place or just a stabilized place. And even after 8 years in recovery, the death of my mother, all these things, I still go and I still went and made the wrong decision. I did the wrong thing. And I made those decisions, and I gotta live with that because I'm the one that goes home to an empty house. I'm the one that, I gotta deal with that. Like today, like this day and age, I have to deal with those things. And you know what? I just work towards being a better man. I'm not gonna condemn myself and crucify myself. Like going through all these things, but I was a hurt and broken person that went and hurt and broke somebody else. And when my mother died, the kinks in my armor started showing through, and a little bit of light started to crack out, and that thing just busted right open. And all my insecurities, all the things I didn't work on, they poured and spilled all over the place. It was toxic. It was disturbing how volatile, how poisonous that was. Like all that stuff that was inside of me. And I went to therapy because I was really messed up. I really didn't feel good about what I was doing. And like after like 2 years of therapy, going on my third therapist, my therapist told me, like, Angel, like, when did you feel like good? I said, when I was going to my meetings. And and that's what I decided to do. I started to go back to my meetings, and I started like making meetings regularly and reaching out to other addicts and doing the work and going to therapy and talking to my therapist and working out, and then going to church and building a relationship with God. I went, in 2020, I started, going back to church. And I think like 2 years ago, I wound up getting baptized again in the Christian church. And, things started getting better for me. But I still destroyed a relationship. I destroyed my family. I did all those things. And while I was destroying things, I was building it. Because when my mom passed away and I started going through this turmoil in my life, I also was still looking for a house, and I bought a house. I wanted to buy a house. While all this stuff was going on and all the back and forth, and it was just crazy is an understatement for like what was happening in my life. It was crazy toxic. It was. And for the next 3 or 4 years of my life was so chaotic. And, it was just not healthy. And, I put somebody that I love through a lot. I put myself through it. Now my son, he was born into all these problems that were already occurring before he even came. And then I go and I do that and bring him into it. And there was so many things, like going on. And I lost contact with my other children because I was going through things with their mother too. And my daughter wound up getting told that after 12 years old, she doesn't have to come with me anymore because she could go to court and tell them she don't want to be with me. And the mother had her all the time. She was all up in her mind and controlling the narrative and painting me out to be a person that she depicted me to be. Not about the father that I was, not about the sacrifices that I made, not about the person that I am. It's about my behavior and my actions and what I had done to them as individuals is what became the thing in the situation for my first child's mother. And, it's all of that, and I was grieving my mother. I was trying to grieve the loss that I had. And then shortly after my mom passes away, my uncle that raised me, he gets extremely sick. And he gets extremely sick, and his wife couldn't take care of him. And she had to put him in a home. And my uncle that was my father, he was in a home. So after my mom died, I'm going through this chaotic thing that I created, that I did, that I screwed up. And my uncle gets sick and gets worse, and he's in a nursing home, and I gotta watch this man that I looked up to, that I thought was like the strongest person in the world. I had to watch this man disintegrate like I watched my mother. And it was just so much to deal with. I'm surprised that I stood clean through all of this because I'm not on parole or probation or nothing like that. But what I am is I'm accountable to God. And my relationship with God began getting stronger. I kept watering that. And my faith started to grow again. And I started trying to put things together in my life. And all I can ask for is forgiveness for the wrong that I've done, for the women that I hurt. And, I could apologize. And my poor decisions is not who I am. That's not who I am. I made bad decisions. I was going through all these crazy things. I never even really knew who I was. I didn't even know why I hated women. I didn't even know that I put everybody in a category behind my mother, and that I went and got involved with women that I knew couldn't show up for me in a certain way. And I didn't even know what that way was because I didn't even know who Angel was. It's now through all the work that I'm doing that I'm getting to really know who I am at 47 years old. I'm really getting to know myself the last couple of years because I'm doing the work, because I'm working out, because I'm eating right, because I got a relationship with God, because I do my step work and I'm doing all these things and I'm accountable and I hold myself accountable and other people in my life hold me accountable. And they can tell me when I'm doing right, and you know what? I'm not afraid to admit it. I'm not afraid to say, oh, I did that wrong. Pardon me. I'm not going to do that again. I'm going to fix that. I'm going to straighten that out. And that's, that's how I live my life. And I'm not my past bad decisions. Because that ain't a mistake. That's a decision. I made decisions to do what I did. And I hurt people because I was hurt. And that's not a reason. That's just my truth. You know, and I didn't know what I needed. So how could I even pick a partner if I didn't even know what I needed, what I wanted, who I was? You know, and this is because of all the stuff that I've been through growing up. I never thought about paying attention to that shit. You never think about holding yourself accountable. I never thought about holding myself accountable, about looking at my actions, about understanding the severity of my decisions, about being a father, about being a husband, about being a healthy man, just angel within angel, with God in the center, and understanding what that meant. I'm learning a lot of that now, and I'm not afraid to say it. You know, like, I'm definitely growing through what I'm going through, you know, and what I've been through. And it hasn't been easy. You know, I own a house that I live alone in. You know, see my kids when they have time. I make myself available. I show up for them. I have a relationship with all three of my kids. I love them all. They're all in different phases of their lives. And I get to show up for all of that. When my grandbaby was born, I was there in the room for my daughter. You know, like, after not being in her life, not by choice, I still was able to show up, because today I'm just consistent in doing the right thing, and doing the right thing and what that means for me, because I'm learning to love myself more and more every day, and then doing the right thing after I give it to God, and after I review it for myself and what it looks like to be healthy for me, and then I pour everything else out, because I was just pouring from an empty cup. You know, me as an individual, I was a strainer that couldn't hold anything. Everything just went through me, because I didn't have any ability to, like, heal or to do anything healthy, because I wasn't working on anything. I was just hurt. I was that little boy that never got to come out and play. I never got to be a child. I never got to really, like, enjoy my teenage years, my young adult years. You know, I was numbing out, doing drugs. I did everything that I learned. I did everything wrong first. And there's a lesson in all of it, because I learned that I could be consistent in something, because I consistently fucking destroyed my life. Even while being clean. Even while not having drugs in my system, I still behave like that degenerate. Because you can stop doing the drugs. You can stop doing all those things. But if you ain't doing the work, and you're not putting yourself under a magnifying glass, and you're not looking at the root cause of all those issues and all those problems, and you don't start to peel those layers back off that onion, and you don't get to the core of it, and you don't understand it, you don't clip that, and you don't prune and take the weeds out and do all them things in your life, for me, I never grew. I never grew. I was immature. I was insensitive. I was selfish. I was all these things. And It's not okay. But, by the grace of God, today that's not who I am. And I always had a good heart. I always showed up for people. Even when I was dead broke, I showed up. Because even if I could just be there physically, I would show up. I'll show up for anybody. And I had and I have a lot of good qualities about myself. I was just broken. And I didn't understand how to put myself together. And this is the process of everything that I'm saying. This is the process of my vulnerability. And this is the process of me talking about all the things that I've been through and me going through it piece by piece so that someone can see where things started to shift, how things started to change, what it was that I did, and what helped me to come out on the other side. And that shit don't mean that I don't go through problems. That doesn't mean that life doesn't show up and whips my ass and tears me apart every now and again. It doesn't mean that the earth doesn't get scorched and I gotta rebuild at different points in my life. Right now, I'm rebuilding. Right now, my life is torn apart today. Tomorrow, I celebrate my 13 years clean. And I continue to move forward. I continue to do the work. I continue to go to therapy. I continue to talk about things that break me, that hurt me, what I'm going through right now. Working on going backwards in my life and talking about all of that with my therapist. Talking about, what I did wrong in the moments. How I view it now and where I'm at with everything today and what that means for me right now in real time as I go back and I revisit the worst times in my life. Because in the process of all of that, my uncle, whom I love dearly and I miss, right after my mother passed away, my uncle passed away, and, these are pillars in my life that are gone. And I'm over here holding up this ceiling with stilts on. I'm just, man, I think about them, man, and I miss them a lot. And even though we went through all these bad things, there was a lot of great experiences, but I picked up a lot of the bad habits. All of the bad habits I picked up first. And that's the truth. And I gotta be accountable for that. I can't blame my father for having as many kids with as many different women. I can't blame my uncle. I can't blame my mother. I can't blame their father, my grandfather. I can't blame the streets. I can't blame the system. I can't blame the drugs. Because I'm the constant in all of it. Now, I could keep complaining about what's wrong, or I could do things different. I could go and bury my emotions in a bottle of liquor or smoke weed just to numb out. Is that going to change anything that I put people through, or I put myself through? It's not going to change anything. The only time it begins to change is when I see what I did wrong and I'm willing to be accountable for it. And I show up and I admit my faults and I admit my shortcomings and I admit what I did wrong, and then I try to figure out through therapy through other addicts, through a sponsor, through a friend, through other people that have been through this. And that's all I'm really trying to do. I'm just trying to tell my story. Hopefully that somebody could reach out and we could have some real heart-to-heart conversations where they could tell me, yo, I was in that situation, brother, this is what I did. You know, I still need guidance. I still need counsel. I still need help. But I'm still willing to help. And I'm still willing to be a part of somebody else's community. It ain't all about me, you know. And today I'm pouring from a overflowing cup. Even though I don't have the things that I want, I have the things that I need. I have God in the center of everything I do. I have my dignity intact. I have my self-respect, my self-worth, my value. I understand all those things today. And just because I made bad decisions doesn't make me this terrible person. I've made those decisions. I've paid for my bad decisions. I've paid for them. And I could apologize over and over. But once you apologize, the real apology is in being different, changing the behavior, not doing the same thing over and over. And that I have been doing. Not being that same person. Changing what I don't like. Working on it. Seeing myself clearly through other people's eyes, through my own eyes. Being able to have some clarity because of the honesty in my own life. You know? And it becomes a point where you just can't apologize anymore. And I can't keep apologizing because I'm doing things different. Because I'm living a different life. Because I'm not the same person that I was. And I'm not sitting here trying to be perfect or pretend like I'm something I'm not. I'm a human being, man, just trying to tell my story and hope that it reaches somebody that really just needs some love, because I just want to be there for people. That's my superpower, like being of service, helping. That's where I excel. That's where I find my real purpose, by loving people and meeting them where they're at and understanding where they're at and not expecting me from them, and understanding that if that's where they're at, they're only there because that's where they could be. They're doing the best they can. And we're all in different places in our lives. You know, and, you know, God bless my uncle's soul, my mother's. Miss you guys terribly. I think about you guys all the time when I see kids playing or I see families interacting, and even the good stuff, even the bad stuff. I still think of you. I love you guys. And, you know, to the women I've hurt, you know, I'm sorry for what has happened. And I just show up and be accountable. And I know what I've done wrong. And that's all I can do, but I gotta continue moving, because I can't live in what I did wrong, because I'm never gonna be able to grow from there. I'm never gonna be able to move on to the next thing, to reform, to get better, to be a better partner for whoever comes next in my life. And, you know, understanding that a father is not someone that just provides financially. A father is emotional support, loving, caring. He cries, he laughs, he busts your chops. He does all them things. And I'm all of that. All of it. And, you know, if you see in this video and you want to reach out, you can leave a message. You know, go check out my YouTube channel. You know, Saying Goodbye, a podcast by Angel. And, you know, look at the episodes, follow episode by episode, and share with somebody that might need a little inspiration or just see that they're not alone. You know. And we're coming down to the final stretch of like where I'm at in my life, and I'm somewhere around 2022, and that's more or less like where I was at, like when I really started doing the work, when I got baptized. It was like so many things, 2022, 2023, going into like where I'm at, you know, today. And in these next 2, maybe 3 episodes, to finalize my story, I really want to tie in where I'm at today, like to the day. I want to talk about the beauty of my life and the wonderful things that are happening, and I will just come full circle so that, you know, you could see it in its entirety, and you could see everything and see that no matter what you have gone through, no matter what life has dealt you, it happened for you, not to you. You know, they say God gives his toughest tests, you know, his toughest battles to his strongest warriors. And I am a warrior of God. And he gives it to me, and I handle it. I know who my Father is. I know who I serve. And I can never be broken. Because they've tried, and God has always put me back together. It's not me, it's him. He works through me. I am here because my Father had the compassion to forgive me and help me to lead a path. I begged for it, I prayed for it for years, and he gave me what I asked for when I was humble enough to accept it. And if I could get through all of that, and I could survive this and really begin to live a life, so can you. You can get through anything. And if you can't get through it, message me. We'll get through it together. I'll make time for anybody. You know, until the next episode, thank you for listening. Please like, share, subscribe. Tell a friend to tell a friend. You never know who needs to hear a message. God bless you guys.